I want to say that you may not know this, but from water and poor sanitation, more people die than from war and guns. So there are many, many, many movements that are dedicated towards peace because they feel that there is unnecessary harm and death from that. But if we don't solve water and sanitation, there will actually potentially be war in the world over the limited water that's available. So it will be ironic and sad that we will cause death by guns,
Yes,
because we
it's a
didn't
very
solve
strong-
the death
this-
by water, which will be a very sad thing for the world. Because these resources are limited and they cannot be, more cannot be manufactured, we have no choice but to think of the whole world as a family, and to think of, so anything you do that is a technology that can be used here can also be used in the rest of the world. And all of these also have historic roots in India. Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam, you would have heard that expression. So if the earth is our family and the earth is the home that we know, although you want to go to space, I think the spaceship we live on is called Earth right now. And we have lived on this spaceship. It gives us, it serves beautiful food, very tasty food. If you think of it as a cruise that we are all on, it has provided a very nice, beautiful climate, lot of really good food and service. Can we pass on that beautiful spaceship, and can we bring everybody to a middle level? Those would be the would be the challenges. So inventing things that are
My name is Lakshmi Mishra. I am from IIT. Being in younger generation, what should be our first step to save the resources?
Absolutely. Okay, that's a very good question. Clearly, all change begins with ourselves, right? Be the change you want to see in the world. From another famous son of Gujarat. So you start with saying that how can I use less? In what ways? I don't mean be useless. I mean use less. Yeah. So whenever you think something is useless, it may be that it's not completely useless. That would be the recycle and reuse approach. But also from source to use less. It comes again naturally to us. Whether I remember to turn off the switch or not, my mother will remember to turn off the light switch. See, it comes naturally to us. We want to keep those habits and pass them on. We can do simple things like replacing the lights with more energy efficient lights, LED lighting which is coming up, etc. All of these use less of energy. Or we find ways in which we can make things last longer. We can create products which are less resource intensive. Those are clearly future jobs for an engineer like you to focus on. But the first step is always to make that resolution at your level, your family's level, your community's level, and say that how can I make my footprint on the earth be a little smaller than it is. It doesn't mean you have to go without food or you have to all of those things. But among the lessons that India has to teach the world is actually very sustainable food habits. It's a funny thing to think about. People always used to ask me, why are you vegetarian and all of that. But it's one of the important learnings that our ancient culture can bring to the world. If you want to feed a lot of people, you want to use sources of calories that are less land intensive, and try to spread that food among a lot of people. It not only feeds a lot of people, it keeps you healthy, it makes you actually live longer as long as you read up on the limitations of vegetarian food and balance your own diet. So again, it requires a little bit of self-learning on your own part, which includes research into what are the shortcomings of our practices, and how can we make it sustainable for ourselves. So it's not that it has to come at the cost of your health and well-being, but that it has to be something that an entire society can live on. Today you'll be surprised, there's a growing trend towards vegetarianism in the West, in Europe as well as in America. There are more and more restaurants, there's more curiosity about it, and of course there's therefore a growing popularity of Indian food, because here is a cuisine in which you can just walk in and order anything. There are lots of choices, and many other cultures there may be only one or two choices that meet this idea. So we have a lot that we bring already, and to improve it in ways by adding, certain food groups that are not well represented, etc., will be the job of our today's scientists, is to spread the learning about what modern science has taught us about nutrition science, about balance, all of those things, and health issues to the rest. Obviously all other waste comes into this. The idea of taking what you need as opposed to just taking and then eating some and throwing away the rest. Those are all just habits we already have. So at some level, I would say everyone in the world needs to learn how to live like an Indian, because if we could do that, you would have a sustainable world.
What are the ways to improve the poverty condition in our country? It is due to lack of education. To improve the education system, what the younger generation should do, because it is also the part of development. So what we have to do?
Ma'am, just in addition to what Lakshmi said, just few days back I was seeing an interview in CNN-IBN. It was focusing on the malnutrition of children, infants below they gave a rate, I don't remember the exact number, a percentage of infants who do not even reach 1 year, they do not even become 1 year old, they are dying because of malnutrition.
Yeah.
Do you think that what you said, that we are not using properly the resources, is it possible that this could also be one of the reasons that we are also responsible for that enough food they are not being able to get? Is it that our responsibility also? Do you think so, right?
Well, of course, there are many agencies at work in addressing the questions of poverty. Government has tried for many years and continues to work in that area, and they're a very important player in education and in nutrition. But as individual citizens and as young people, the things we can do include volunteering with NGOs, non-government organizations, or even those that are engaged in improving the education that's available through public school to these poorer areas, because that is one way of sharing our knowledge with them. The second is to always be connected with other young people, because what you're really building is a movement of people who think like you and who are working for strangers in a way. Everybody works for their own family, their own community, their neighborhood, their city, even their state. But what is required of us is to work for people we don't know, because unless everybody is free, no one is free. So you are called upon actually to do things that are beyond what your parents' generation or our generation did, more like what the people in the freedoms movement did, because they were taking an old society and bringing it into modern era. You are now taking that country, which has built some institutions over time, but trying to jump past the slow process of growth, and I will say leapfrog, like a frog can leap like this, just the same way we didn't put, I was using the example of cell phones, we didn't put a landline, in everybody's house, then take it back and give them cell phones. We went straight to cell phones, from no phone to cell phone. That is the challenge that you're trying to put together. So you want to go from the education of the elite, the people who have means to go to school, to the education of all, because without the education of all, you will still have a country that cannot move and use all its potential. You can't give instructions in writing. You can't expect people to stand up for their own rights because they can't read if they're still putting, thumbprint. So the gift of education that you've received is a gift that is to be shared at some level. So how to share that can include yourself volunteering, you forming networks of people who in turn will volunteer. People are looking at even the use of technology, which you are all very adept in, and you're growing up in a generation of technology users. Everywhere I look, I see people, doing something with their phone or their more sophisticated data phones and so on, so that it's possible to actually build movements without traveling, without too much time and expense, to be connected with people. And the important thing about connection is that no one person can make all the changes happen. Yet being connected to other people who think like you, even if they are not living near you. How do you find people who think like you, right? Building a movement was so hard in the old days. How do you spread the word? How do you get 100 people to march behind you? It's really hard to do in the old days. Today, you can build it in this manner. And people look at the movement in the Middle East for democracy and things. They call it the Facebook revolution. Why? Because they used Facebook and made people of my generation are shocked because we used to think you had to like take a placard and march, and then police will come and like hit you. Nothing, I mean, some people of course had to go and do that in order to force media attention on it. But the combination of world media and your kind of technology media and the power of so many motivated youth is really unbelievable. And that's why I'm very optimistic about things. I feel like the more people always ask me when I come back from visiting India, sometimes you read in the paper. When you open the paper, when you land, you read and it says, oh, corruption, murders, all kinds of very frightening things. And you think, oh my God, what has happened to the country? But you come out and you talk to people and you see both the optimism, the can-do, the concern for other people, the desire to be better. Those are all the motivating factors. Young people have a unique skill that brings you to this without kind of losing your hope. A lot of people, by the time they reach middle age, they've given up on hope, and so to me that is a very powerful force that can be used. Obviously, I want to talk to you about other things that we can do, after this talk. But there are definitely organizations and groups that you should be connected with. I thought there was one more. Yeah, go ahead.
My name is Anli. I am a student for IIT. My question is, how can the youth power create an impact in bringing a change for sustainable development?
Yes. So we were talking about the power of young people just now, and how can youth play a role. In my house, the person who has the most power and influence in changing the way we do things is my daughter, right? Because she comes home, she has read about things, she has heard a talk, whatever, and she'll say, Mom, you're doing it all wrong, right? Turn this on, do this, do that. You're so old-fashioned, she'll say, So never underestimate the ability of young people to change older people. We think in our mind that they have control, they have got power, they have money, they're the seniors, they're adults. That's not true. In fact, the power that young people have is not only to change themselves, but to change their own family, their own community, and to come back and show how it can be done differently. So the important thing in youth power is that you have moral courage, that you should be able to see right from wrong, that you can see what, where things need to go, that you read, you learn, you absorb information from all around. And that, in turn, these networks, such as the one you've built, are used to spread or share with you the most up-to-date information, the modern learning, and so on. And the thing that I'm always impressed with is the, amazing thirst for knowledge that exists. Some years back, I worked in an organization, or was associated with an organization here in South India, and they were teaching women how to stitch things and so on. But at a certain time, everything stops, and they turn on the TV, and there is a address. Somebody saying, "Do you know how to prevent diabetes in your family?" Or to your question, "Do you know how to have no malnutrition in your family?" If a woman is expecting a child, she needs to eat not just 3 meals, maybe 6 meals. Maybe she needs to be fed more, and then when the child comes, then you have to make sure that they've got the nutrition. That the water should be boiled, that they don't get sick, and malnutrition doesn't result from digestive challenges. This type of information can be shared with people even though their work may be very different. They may not be educated, they may not be able to read something, but with modern technology and the use of use of the internet to broadcast, you are able to get to a lot of people the information. It's not just used anymore just to show movies or to win elections, right? It can be used to spread the knowledge that you have gained, and that builds global communities. So one of the things we are looking into is how can we connect these women with women from other
Across
countries,
countries.
right? Because then they feel I'm not just living in this, कहते हैं ना ये मैं एक ही कुएं में रह रही हूँ, वैसे नहीं है, वो सारी दुनिया के बारे में जानकारी रख सकते हैं. So every कुएं का मेंढक can become a world class मेंढक, right? So because of having this connection. So as more people get comfortable with technology, and here again youth are the leaders, I am very optimistic that this is possible. We're further looking into another aspect, which is the lack of electricity power, because ultimately all this technology comes to a halt if there is no electricity. And so the use of locally generated power, which is not dependent upon a large central plant and lot of distribution losses. So the models that we adopted again were from a lot of Western models where they had centralized production and distribution losses. So a lot of power is lost in bringing it all the way to the end. Now you can think about community level solutions. Again, a lesson that came from Mahatma Gandhi ji, again from Gujarat, that community level solutions ultimately, we needed to go through the path of having national and state level and centralized solutions, but इसकी बारी आ गई है अब कि गांव-गांव में जो उनकी समस्याएं हैं उनका हल वहीं हो पाएगा. Because power can be generated from solar, power can be generated from biogas. We have been trying to do this, but now it has got a new respect, and research money, R&D money all over the world, not just here, is going towards this. And from our perspective, we want power. We don't care really whether it is solar or wind or any type of power. Our people are eager to have, not live in darkness, and to have light to study by. You know, I used to tell my children, my grandfather used to read by the light temple lamp that the Maharaja used to provide. So they would all go sit under that lamp. Then other people would go and sit under the street lamp. Now our turn is to take the power of the sun and create something that can be charged during the day that will provide 10 hours of light when the people come back. So even if they are working in jobs that don't give them enough money to have a home with electric connection and so on,